Good morning and welcome back to my channel. Oftentimes, my friends will come to me to ask me business questions. Usually they have an idea and they want to get my opinion, or they want some guidance as to how to go about launching their business. And when that happens, usually the first question that I ask them is why? Why do you want to go in business? And I ask this question because I have learned that the reason why we want to go into business, it's a very, very, very important factor that influences how successful we're going to be in business. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about some of the reasons not to go into business. These are based on my experiences from starting a business, my mistakes, and the lessons that I pulled from them. Let's get right into it. Number one reason why you should not get into business is because you want to be your own boss. Let me tell you something. Being a boss is overrated. I think people have this perception of leadership that's flawed. We think it's easy, but leading people, managing people is extremely complex. Not everybody has what it takes to lead people. Not everybody has the stability emotionally. Not everybody has the mindset that it takes to lead people. Some people are better off working for someone else, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Reason number two why you shouldn't start your own business is because someone else is doing it and it's working for them. One of the mistakes that we make sometimes is that we see somebody else doing something and it seems like they're doing well, and so we decide that we're going to do it too. What we don't realize is that when we talk to people generally about how their business is doing, they almost never tell us exactly how the business is doing. Most times, most people will paint a picture of their business, which is actually not what it is. People will typically give you the impression that the business is doing much better than it actually is. And even if the business is doing very well, what people are not going to do is give you details, all the details about how they're doing their business. They won't tell you about the connections that they have that are helping them in one way or another. They won't tell you if at any point they're breaking the rules to make things work. They won't tell you if there is something particular that they're doing that is working for them that nobody knows. What they would tell you is just general information and just that it's a good business. And that should never be a reason why you should jump into doing business yourself. Never. When you think of a business idea or you see somebody doing something that seems like it's working, you should take your own time to do your own research, do your own market study, and use that to determine whether this business idea is viable and whether it's something you should invest in. Reason number three why you should not start your own business is to have more free time. This is exactly the opposite of what's going to happen if you start business. Entrepreneurship takes over your life. It's a 24-hour operation. Typically, when you start, you're alone, you have to do multiple jobs, and you actually have less free time than when you work for most 8 to 5 jobs. So think about that before you jump into business. Reason number 4 why you shouldn't start your own business is because it's the only way to achieve financial freedom. Like I've said in my past videos, doing business is not the only way to achieve financial freedom. This notion that we must all do business is very misleading, because business is not for everyone. Investment entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And we need to be true to our strengths. And we also have to recognize that we can be just as successful as business people by working for corporations. We can invest in our careers, develop ourselves, and grow in such a way that we make as much money or even way more money in corporations than people do doing business. And sometimes getting into business the wrong way can ruin an entire family and ruin our lives. So, if you want to do business for the right reasons, please go ahead, but never feel like it's the only way to succeed. Point number 5, why you should not get into business is because your parents were business people and it's in your genes. Listen, not all genes are passed down. Your parents may have been business people, but that doesn't mean that you automatically have the business gene. And secondly, this is not 1970 or 1980. And business today is different from what business was back then. So don't just sit back and think, because my parents were successful, then I must be successful too if I do the same thing. Point number 6, why you should not start your own business is because you have a unique idea that nobody else has thought of. And so you have to jump on it before other people get to it. One thing I learned is that we often overestimate our capabilities. We often overestimate how intelligent we are. For some reason, and this has happened to me too, when we think of something, we have this notion that nobody else has thought of it before us. And that somehow we have this genius revelation and we're going to be the first to do this or do that. When in reality, almost never do we think of something that nobody else has thought of before. Almost never. And the separating factor between those that succeed and those that fail in business is not who had the brightest idea or who was the first to think of things most times. It's who was the best at executing their plan in building their business, or best at executing a plan to implement the idea that they had. So when you think of something, rather than think that, hey, I am Einstein for thinking this and I am going to change the world with it, the first thing you should tell yourself is like, somebody else has probably thought of this before me. And if they have, why haven't they done anything about it? Or if they have done something about it, then why did they fail? That will get you further than thinking you're the only one, the only genius to ever think of this. Point number 7, and this is a personal one to me. Reason number 7 not to start your own business is to help people. Anyone that knows me or that has ever met me knows how much I speak of my purpose and how passionate I am about helping and having a positive impact on the world. When I started my business, I let my business objective intertwine with my world impact, helping people objectives. I was driven by this need to make a difference through my business right away. And as time went on, in hindsight today, I realized that that was a mistake. I've learned that business and charity should not mix. When we do business, we have to do business. When we want to help people, we need to help people. And the two need to stay separate, especially in the beginning, especially when we're starting off. Especially when we're starting off. This is also important because before you can help people, you need to have some foundation. You can't be trying to make business decisions. And while you're making business decisions, you're also making irrational decisions which don't make business sense. One thing that I understood with time is that business decisions always have to make business sense. So at any point in time when you make a decision for business, you have to make a decision as if you had a boss and you had to justify to him why you're making that decision. That will typically get you to be rational. So those are my 7 reasons why you should not start a business. The reality is that business is hard. It's very, very hard. And that's why even billion-dollar companies, Fortune 500 companies that have been going on for 50, 100 years, that have all the money and all the experts in economics and physics and everything, still sometimes end up filing for bankruptcy, end up failing. And if such established businesses can fail, what more of small businesses, entrepreneurship, startups? There's a stat out there, I don't know if it's exact, that most startups fail between 3 to 5 years, like 90% or something. A high percentage of startups will fail within the first 3 to 5 years. And when you hear that, your first instinct is to think, oh, that won't be me. That won't be me. I told myself that won't be me. Those people didn't know what they're doing. But the reality is that there's more chances that you will fall within that percentage than that you won't. It's just math. And what's important here is that I am not, like my goal here is not to discourage you from doing business or from thinking business or from taking initiative. Actually, it's the opposite. What I'm doing is that I want to create awareness. My intention is to share my experience, my knowledge, to help raise awareness around what business really is like and help tailor people's expectations when they go into business and help them make sure they go into business for the right reasons. And the truth is that even when you go into business for the right reasons, there's still a lot of chances that you're going to fail. And I can say today that I strongly believe that part of becoming a good businessman is failing. Part of learning, part of growing, part of understanding business is those failures. Those failures help you learn and understand what you need to do to be successful. Because we learn more in failure than we learn in success. But the more that we can do in the beginning to minimize our chances of failure, the better we are. So, again, have your ideas, have your plans, and I'll always encourage you to dare to do business. And just make sure that before you start, you ask yourself why, and make sure that your why is a good one. And if at any time you need an ear, a second opinion on your why, on your idea, I'm here and I'll be happy to listen and share my opinion on your plan and your overall strategy. On that note, thank you for listening and until next time.